Hi there, Al here. Today's video is about my GS500E, and what I'm doing is basically changing the fork seals. Okay, I picked the bike up probably about, I don't know, 8 months ago, just for a song basically, off a tourist in Darwin, and no major issues. I guess the biggest one of course is the fork seals. This is probably the fourth set of seals on bikes that have changed over the last, or progressively over the last 2 years, and it doesn't vary very much, but there's a couple of little things that vary in each one. And this 2008 500E, it's a little bit different just in terms of the internals, and certainly tightening the lower torquing bolt at the bottom of the fork stem. So I just thought I'd show you. I had a bit of a look on YouTube trying to find some information about the 500E forks, and this particular area which I'm going to go into, well, it doesn't show it. So what I haven't done is shown you the disassembly of it. It's all pretty straightforward. It's all nuts and bolts anyway. What I will show you, okay, is the forks whilst they've been disassembled, the assembly of the forks themselves, and the items you probably need to know about. So I hope that it's helpful. Okay, we'll get on with it. One thing that I have noticed with a lot of people when they put mechanical parts back together, there's one thing which they fail to do, which is really important, and that is that all mechanical items should be put back in the exact same way as they were taken apart. Meaning that over here we have our left fork, and over here we have our right fork. So, excuse me, all those pieces should be identified and kept in their separate groups and put back, you know, as the left fork, as the right fork. And there's a reason for that. All mechanical parts in engines, or no matter whatever it may be, it might be marine related, it might be a diesel engine, you know, it might be a set of carburetors you've taken apart. All those moving parts and all those non-moving parts, they find a happy spot just in terms of the way that they operate. So they wear differently, they run differently, you know, and the differences are minute. They're impossible to pick. But what actually happens, for example, if you're working on a carburetor, let's say a set of 4 carburetors off a 750 or a 900 or a 1200, you take all those jets out, you do some maintenance on the carbies, okay, and you mix them all up, okay, then you put them back in. There might be some issues with the way the jets are worn internally, or the way that they've been synchronized. They're set up a certain way, so you're going to cause problems to yourself. So I mean, even with if you're doing the repairs to a diesel engine and you do a full rebuild, you know, you have your main, you know, your big end bearing shaft, okay, and it's got 4 bearings on it, 4 con rods, you know, four pistons, you know, rings. There's a whole range of things there. When you take those apart, you mark them all and you keep them all the same, and they go back together the same way. So, the happy spot that I'm talking about, you retain that. Sometimes if you mix them up, it can cause all sorts of issues, and it can even cause early failure on engines. So certainly when you're putting things back together, make sure that they go in the exact reverse. So what you see here, okay, basically I've got the fork set up, okay. I have pulled these out, I've given them a good clean, okay, I've done some various inspections. You can see, you know, have a look at the wear points. Often when these they're coloured, there's discolouring or wear points. The discolouring gives you the hint that there's some wear in your bearing point, or your surface points. That's pretty good, so I'm going to reuse that. And even the tolerances on all this, they're fine, so not a drama. When you do take things apart, if you're a bit like me, I tend to take a long time to get back to them. It's been about 3 months for me. When I took these apart, I took some photographs with my camera so I can refer to it next time so I don't mix anything up. So it's a good habit to get into. What we're going to do now is basically reassemble it. So here we go. One thing I have noticed that with the YouTube explanations on the fork replacement, one thing that they don't show is a tool you can make for reinstalling your damper. You'll see that anything that is pre-2004, they have a nut down the bottom of that so you can make a tool up. But with this, they don't. They talk about a special tool. I'll just show you something. That measurement in there is, where are we? 10. It's about let's say 10 mil. So you're going to have to make a fitting up to go in there. And what I've done is pretty much, I've got a bit of hardwood and I've ground it down so it fits in there nicely. You can grip it. So that's what I'll be using to stop that from rotating when I turn the nut or the bolt with a copper washer on the end of it. Pretty straightforward. You can use a broomstick. There are other things that you can do. You can get something machined down, but I thought that was the quickest and easiest. So just be aware that the taper on that timber, you don't want to break it off. So, and also you don't want to make it too sharp because it won't grip this properly. Anyway, we've got our inner tube. Put your damper in there with a retaining spring. Down she goes. Pop through there. Retaining cup. Put that in. Got your outer tube. There we go. Okay, make sure that all your bits and pieces have been cleaned properly, because the last thing you want in there is grit after all that work. Okay, you got your retaining bolt. Give it a turn. Sometimes you've got to move it around a bit. Well, that's taken, it's not falling out. Give it a bit of a tap. You won't need much. It'll do. Okay, my bit of tempered square so I can grab it with a shifter. Just to hold it. Just going to use an open ender, a little ring spanner, it'll do the job, just the whole end of that Allen key. Now, tightening that bolt up, okay, there is a torque, with the manual there is a torque reference. You'll find you really don't need to over tight. It'll get taut, it'll get tight, and then you'll feel the copper washer go, it'll bite, bang, bang. And you can see it now. Bang. Okay, that's nice and tight. It'll seal, it'll hold fine. So a fair purchase there. Obviously you don't want to loosening up when you're using the motorcycle over a period of time. Okay, I'm happy with that. Out she comes. A special tool. Notice the taper there, it's quite long. You can see, you can actually see where it's been inserted inside the damper and gripped it. So I'll keep that in my box of goodies for next time. Alright, so right to go. Now there is a sleeve which goes into an insert in there, so put the sleeve on, you'll see that it's actually a spacer. There's a small cut in it, so I'll close up. Put that in there. And sometimes it won't go into the, there's a machined shoulder in there which it'll slip into. Sometimes it won't go in there, but what you can do, I've made up this tool. It's just a bit of PVC, and I've used it for about 4 or 5 bikes now. Just put her over the top. It's in there nice and neat now. You probably can't see that, but timing ring. Okay, so we've got that together. Got the inner tube and the outer tube. Okay, we've got the dampers going in there, retaining cup, the bolt washer. It's nice and tight, so I'm pretty happy with that. Next thing are your seals. If you can, use a bit of oil to put the seal on as well. I've noticed that quite a few people put it on dry. So bit of fork oil. Alright, got our new seals. Dust seal, fork seal. Make sure that you have a look at the seal. It's got to go in a certain way. You can see there the spring's on the bottom. Bit of oil. Yeah, what you don't want to do is damage the seal. There she goes. So when you're pushing the seal in, be a bit careful. No sharp instruments. I've got a rounded Phillips head screwdriver here. Now what keeps that seal in is a retaining circlip or a clip, okay, and that's it there. Make sure it's in good condition, okay, and make sure that the groove that it sits in is nice and clean. So I want to push that seal down a bit further, so I'm using my tool. It's a seal driver. You can buy one more expensive off the net, but it's what works for me. And what you're doing there is you're driving a seal down so the clip goes in there. The last thing you want is that seal to pop out. and you'll hear it. It'll clip in there. It's a really nice seat. What you must do is just have a good look at the clip and make sure that it's seating properly all the way around. As I said, the last thing that you want to do is pop out. But one stage I had a CR450 and I took it up the shop for the mechanic to have a bit of a look at. Anyway, he put it in there. The first run that I had, I blew both seals out of my forks. You know, I took it back and he reseated them, but the damage was done. You know, you can save yourself a hell of a lot of money, and also too, with a bit of care and certainly some advice via YouTube or via friends, you know, you can save yourself a lot of money and get a lot of satisfaction out of it too. Now I'm happy with that. It's looking pretty good. Now the next thing of course are the dust seals. So same process. Bit of oil. You can see, you can compare the old dust seals, which are in my right hand, and they're actually cracked. I don't know whether you can see that, but I was quite surprised. I've never seen that. I've been around bikes for 40 years, but I think it's been sitting in the sun for a long time. It's horrible. Same process, nice and gently, don't force it. And they just pop in there. You can see the inner tube on this bike. It's it's quite corroded. You know, I could have got it recoated or bought a new tube, but you know, for the price of the bike, I mean, I only bought that bike for $500, and in good running condition, it's probably worth about 2,800 or $3,000. But I've just hit that with some wet and dry. The working area of the forks is down about here. Everything above there is a bit of a problem. It's been sitting in the ocean for quite some time. So I've hit it with a bit of 800 grit, wet and dry, then I've gone to 1,000, then I've gone to 1,200, then I've gone to 1,600, and it feels pretty good up there. But as I said, it doesn't work. You know, this area doesn't work. This is the working area. Insert your spacer. Insert your spring. Always remembering it has to be clean. No grit in there. Washer. Spring. Done. So these forks are getting very close to getting put back on the motorcycle, so there's just a couple of little things that I'll point out along the way there. Now, the springs themselves, it's always a good thing to compare them both. And generally, if they're within a couple of mil, you know, it's fine in terms of the tension, but anything over that, I'd consider possibly changing them. To the average rider, it's not going to make a great deal of difference anymore, you know, to a certain degree, but certainly at certain speeds when you're braking and whatnot, it can be a bit of an issue. So just be aware of it. And also too, another handy tip is this retaining cap. When you install that, the spring will be in there, of course, and you've got to push that down, and it's quite difficult to do that. So getting a thread to take can be a bit frustrating sometimes. But what I found that if you find the start of it, and you can see there as I'm turning it, it's loose, or in fact if I'm going the opposite way, I'm undoing it, you'll feel it. It should jump, but it's not. It's making a liar out of me. Hang on. All right. Where it takes, and it's just there. It's just there. There it is, right there. Where it takes, get a pen marker, mark the edge of it there, and put a line, so you know where it's going to start. It's just really handy when you push that down, you start turning that top keeper, or that top stopper, spring stopper with a seal on it. Really handy. On this bike, the springs themselves, the tension isn't too great, but I did that XJ there, as you can see, just recently, and the tension was quite difficult, so it took quite a bit of work to put that down. You can make a jig up on the bench, but the best place to do it is to install them on the machine in the trip clamps, tighten up, sit over the top there, and use your weight of your body to turn it, and then that's it. The other thing too with your oil, all right, which is in this bottle here, you're looking at $382 mil. So I know that in other examples on YouTube they use measurements, but you can't go wrong with that. That's fine. Okay. Well, okay, so you can see I've installed the front wheel. Well, firstly the forks went together, the seals, the forks, oil, internals, retaining spring. Okay, I've installed the forks. Picked up the heights up the top there, fairly crucial, make sure they're the same, and everything's gone back together. Whilst you're in the process of doing that, make sure that you clean all your fittings, and certainly in relation to grease, lubrication, and just give it a birthday, because you don't have it that much, so that's basically what you're doing. Irrespective of what you're taking apart, make sure you grease it up, look after it, hit it with some water repellent, give it a birthday. One thing that's very important when you assemble everything, make sure that before you go for a ride, you go over every nut and bolt and fitting that you've worked on, just to double check. The last thing you want when you're heading down the road there and you hit the skids, pretty much the forks, the whole assembly sliding up the triple clamp there. It'll add some excitement to your day, trust me. And it's happened to me before, back in the early years. I was racing CR450s, motocross, enduro, all sorts of stuff. Pretty much before every race we'd go over every nut and bolt. So that's a bit over the top, but certainly with your work, or whatever it may be, just go everything and just check all your torquing on all your bolts and all your nuts. Make sure it's good. So we're all pretty much good, right to rock and roll. See if she starts, hey? Yeah, nice and smooth. Listen to these GS500s, they haven't changed the design of the engine for a lot of years.
They're a great, reliable bike, a real fuel miser. It's great for travel, and got some good power. I've got that. Excuse the light, but that XJ 900 there, you know, and I think, well, I don't think, I know off the standing start, this thing treats that thing like a wet rag, eh? So, you know, carbureted, basic electrical, nothing high tech. You know, the most high tech thing on this bike, I think, is the CDI. Great for the novice, a good reliable bike. What I'll basically do, I'll put some registration on this thing, probably 3 months in the Northern Territory. We can put registration on a bike or on a car for 4 weeks if you like, or a month. So I'll put 3 months on it, and I'll use it for a little bit just to see how it goes, make sure all the ticks are out of it, and then I'll put it up for sale. So yeah, 500 bucks, bit of maintenance. All I've really done is done an oil change, give it a clean up, checked everything, put a new chain on, done some seals, checked all the brake pads. Great little bike, so quite happy with it. But listen, I hope that just in terms of the way I've done things in relation to the seals, you know, you can use the information. Certainly any questions about the bike itself or anything else, just get back to us and I'll answer as quick as I can. That's me. Thanks for joining us, and listen, have a great day. Thank you.